Tease me, Owen. Tease me, Owen. Tease me. Tease me, Owen. Tease me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Doomcast number 58. My name is Charlie McGrath. I'm the founder of WideAwakeNews.com. My friend and my co-founder is Doug Owen. He is the senior editor, owner, founder, base founder of BlacklistedNews.com. I want to welcome you all to the program number 58. Doug Owen, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Pretty good, except I'm trying to teach you what the outfield is from the 80s, the band, the outfield, as we were talking before the program, because you have now excluded me from your stream. I don't get to hear the music you're playing anymore. I used to, but I think I made fun of you one too many times.
Yeah, and it blows you out. It starts sending audio back down your pipe there, and yeah, it's just not worth it. And you always have something critical to say, so...
Well, yeah, I like to give you crap, so I like to hear the music because I can always give you crap.
Yeah, well, you can do that without the music.
You're damn right I can. I'm the master at giving crap. Oh, my goodness. How are you? How you been? How's your week been? How's your week treated you?
So far, so good. We got some rain. Yeah. It's great. My wife and my baby are both sick with allergies. Mold counts are insane here. So, yeah, other than that, and the war that is coming or that is happening right now on so many different fronts. Other than the usual New World Order stuff, things are going pretty well in my personal life. And thanks for asking, Charlie McGrath.
Yeah, you're welcome. Your beautiful wife and your beautiful child. I'm glad that things are going well. But you're right. I mean, Doomcast. I don't know of a more apropos name, right? I mean, folks, come on, man. Look around. Look at your U.S. House of Representatives just today authorizing more military action in the Middle East, authorizing the military support. Listen, we're going to train them, we're going to arm them, and we're going to let them kill we're talking about the Syrian so-called moderate rebels, which is exactly who we're going to fight in the first place, which is inside of ISIS. Doug, I'm sure you're all over this story.
Yeah, I was watching the PBS NewsHour. That's where I get all my Council on Foreign Relations insight. And, it's pretty funny because now it's like, senior fellow from the Council on Foreign Relations, formerly with IBM and now with GE Security, blah, blah, blah. Just some lady there. And she actually started bringing up things that I think are common sense, if you will. There's a definite lack of that, but blowback. Who the hell are we arming? Who's going to end up with these weapons? What could come of this? Who are we training? How are we really vetting them? How do we know that who we're...
Sorry. I can't make it stop. Sorry.
Was that bad 80s music again?
It's about to be, but I can't make it stop. No, but you're right. There is... What kills me, Owen, is this. The anti-war president, we're going to bring them all home, right? And his anti-war party, the Democrats, are still doing the exact same thing as George W. Bush. If you need any more evidence that there is no such difference between Republican and Democrat, then you just need to look at the current situation that we're in. I mean, we're going to war once again inside of Iraq, even though we have an administration that says they don't want it. We have a party in power that says we don't want it. It doesn't matter what they say to you and to me. It doesn't matter what they say to their constituents. They're going to do the planned, as you said, New World Order agenda, which is destabilize and conquer and keep this thing destabilized and rocking, if you will.
Well, yeah. And when we look at what the real issue is, what is to be gained, it's oil. What's it always been about? Oil. And what's happening in the Ukraine? What's it about? Oil. Some of the stuff I do want to get to. Gas, energy, the control of that. Yeah. And so to think that this would be any different, and that, the latest boogeyman, ISIS, isn't a front for that, then, I wish I could live in your happy, very ignorant land of Lala.
I like to call it the land of John McCain.
John McCain, he's one of those enigmatic people because he does have an insight because he was tortured allegedly in Vietnam and But we talked about him being an operator and being on the ground last week, and how, or maybe a couple shows back, but
where he's videoed with al-Baghdadi.
Right. I mean, on the ground, hanging out with the Al Qaeda terrorists, which we don't hear much about Al Qaeda anymore, because Al Qaeda are now our friends, and now they're moderates, and
yes, Al Nasra, Al Qaeda, they're buddies now. They're tight. I mean, they're we're gonna arm the hell out of them. The money has been promised, along with extending the government through mid-December, government operations. The money has been pledged to give these so-called moderate rebels. And here we are back going after Assad, back going after arming what we know to be anti-West terrorists. And look, you have ISIS, ISIL, IS, whatever you want to call them, in front of us now. And once we decimate them, after another 5, 6, 7 years inside of the Middle East, we will have a ready-made next enemy, which is these moderate so-called rebels that we're about to spend billions of your taxpayer dollars on in order to make them a heavily armed force.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they have our weapons. That's what they're using. The same weapons that, I don't know, maybe the Pentagon's just not very good with them. I mean, in Los Angeles, the Unified School District now has grenade launchers and armored trucks and like. So, I mean, it's not to say that we just give it to terrorists. I mean, we give them to
terrorists.
I was going to say
and other terrorists,
school terrorists.
Yes, yeah, because you never know when the next attack's coming. Are you ready to hear this song?
I don't want to hear that. I don't like 80s music.
I don't care.
Just
You're
like you
listen to it.
You didn't like my music. You like to make fun of it. I'm just going to not like your music or listen to it.
I want to see how it comes across on
because
the
if it was good, I would have known about it. Like,
I think you've heard of it.
Okay, go ahead and play it.
Are you sure?
Sure. Go ahead.
Hold on.
You've already teased it up. You got to do it.
All right, I'm trying to get there. Wait one. Over.
Over.
Here we go. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Wait. All right. Here we go. You've heard this. Oh, so 80s.
It sounds like a commercial.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure it is.
Wow, what a long lead in. I didn't realize.
Is this like Best Buy or something, Office Max?
No, man, listen up. It's the outfield.
You can buy a new desk chair right now. It's 19% off, tax-free. Josie's on a vacation far away. Yeah, I've heard this.
Of course you've heard it.
It's great.
So many things that I
want. All right.
I can't stop.
I'm good.
I can't stop, Owen. Okay, that's what we were. For those of you who are wondering what the hell Owen and I are doing, we were talking about the music stream before the program and his music that I always make fun of. And I told him, yeah, well, I'm sure you probably have the outfield going or something along those lines. And that is Outfield, Your Love. And I'm sure many of our listeners have heard that song before.
All of our old ones that are independent.
Shut up. I'm there with them.
All of you that are sitting on a donut listening to this show right now because your hemorrhoids are bothering you.
That's such a good idea. I wish I had a donut right now. I'm a little chafed.
Oh, yeah. Man. All right, so we've tanked the show, and everybody's already turned it off on the YouTube.
On the outfield?
No, on us. On us, on this show.
Nah, they want this banter, this witty banter back and forth.
Yes, witty.
Witty.
Indeed.
I was all right. So we talked a little bit about the war in. You saw the vote today, right? It was very, very close, but of course it passed. And
what vote? What are we talking about? People get to vote in this country. What's happening?
Well, the House of Representatives gets to vote only if the
what?
leadership. If they're going to fund the government through December.
Oh, please. They can't stop the machine. It's just a joke. I mean, come on. Eggs and ham, Sam I am. You might get Ted Cruz to dance around for a little bit, but my God, I mean, yeah.
Even Rand Paul is coming out talking about how he's not an isolationist. He's distancing himself.
Whoa.
Sorry about that. Shiza.
You said Rand Paul on my board over here. Went crazy.
Freaked out.
Sorry.
Yeah, Rand Paul this week comes out talking about he's not an isolationist. It's separating himself from the libertarian perspective as we get closer and closer to 2016. I don't know if he's going to make a run for it. Do you?
He's the only thing that the Republicans have that has any kind of mojo or, I think staying power. He's the only one that's interesting. I mean, that's the problem with politics today and why it shames me to consider myself to be a political analyst. But the moderate Republicans and the centrist Democrats, you can't tell the difference between them. And the Democrats are trying to be more Republican. The Republicans are trying to be more Democratic. And at the end of the day, it's really hard. I mean, I like some of the things that Rand Paul says, but when I watch him, at the Wailing Wall, kissing the ring of Israel and vowing to, continue to subsidize them, I think, well, this guy's, he knows who's buttering his bread, but
sure.
And maybe, I like maybe that's politics today, and maybe that's just the way it goes.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. He's not his father, without a doubt, and he's going to do whatever he needs to. He's going to say whatever he needs to say and do whatever he needs to do in order to be firmly entrenched in the political
but that's what
machine.
Obama did. So, he said all the right things, all the things I love to hear. Oh, man, transparency, accountability, getting private corporations out of making laws, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it sounds great. Sounds wonderful, as Jim Rome would say. Sounds phenomenal. Stupendous. But, and I think the same thing with Rand Paul. I mean, many of the things he said 5 years ago, I'm like, oh, that's great. And he's pretty wish-washy. But, I mean, compared to the rest of them, I just think that so much of that is very limited in scope as to what they're going to do. I mean, Dr. Nick Begich, his own brother, is the senator in Alaska. And you would think that this guy, would know what's going on and, would be, for the people and time again taking money for gun control advocates. Right. And, so, I mean, they're just kind of all scumbags, and I don't really give them too much credence. I know a lot of people, follow what he and his father have done, but, interestingly enough, they're in a big scandal with this Mitch McConnell thing. Have you been following the Jesse Benton scandal?
A little bit, but do tell more.
Well, he's being indicted, and looks like a bunch of shenanigans, and they were paying for votes. And, I don't know if this is just, to go after Ron Paul or Ron Paul Inc., but because, that he's now a brand Ron. There's Rand, Brand, and Ron, and they've got the Paul brand that, that they're putting together book series, lots of things.
Do you think Ron was, I could not agree with you more about Rand. He lost me when it came to the drone debate, where he said it was, okay if it was flying around the country, if it was
just not looking at me in my hot tub. Yeah, I remember
exactly. That. Yeah, he lost me there. He lost me completely, 100%. I think he's just a sold out politician. But I still think Ron Paul has different values and views than his son. And am I wrong, Doug Owen?
Yeah. I mean, his foreign policy is more libertarian, hardcore values, and more Austrian economics. I think he's less friendly with the Fed. He would like to audit the Fed. That went through. They're looking at auditing the Fed, and that's up. It didn't go through, but it's up for vote.
It ain't going anywhere.
It's not popular to go after the banksters, and if you want more accountability on Wall Street, don't look to Rand Paul. And the problem I have with most of these guys is they're all about privatizing, your pensions, privatizing all of the things that the public actually has, trusted
I
employees.
agree with you. We probably sound like a couple, somebody's listening to this now thinking, oh, what a couple of libs. But I could not agree with you more. There's some things that are just utilities, and they need to be. They need to be by and for the people of this country. And it doesn't matter left, right, or different, or in the middle in Washington, D.C., it is the same mantra. We're going to privatize and give to this corporation, that corporation. That's why we have 4 companies that control our food, 6 companies that control our media, and on down the line. Everything that you do is a for-profit. You're participating in a for-profit corporation, and it is the new neo-feudal system.
It is, and you look at a lot of the people that are his good buddies, and they're Peter Thiel, Bilderberg extraordinaire. There's a lot of billionaires that are behind Rand Paul, and enabling him. And It's not because they like paying taxes. I'll tell you that much. And it's not that I want more taxes or I'm some socialist or pay your fair share, because I really don't believe that my short time on planet Earth should be spent allocating my resources to pay for the injustices of you and not being that smart or whatever it is. Trying to bring.
Or how about just the killing of people around the planet?
You look at animals. I mean, it's a very primal thing. They don't, cats don't figure out how to help other cats and create some socialist, cat bank or something crazy like that. It's just, they serve, right. You serve a purpose on this planet, maybe, at least I believe. And,
but they poop in a box, so they got that going for them.
I'm not talking about domesticated cats at your house. I'm talking about
they're the same thing. They don't take care of each other.
No.
They don't look to. I guess
dogs are in packs, but they don't come together and form coalitions and go after other dogs for bad behavior.
They kind of do. Sometimes. They kind of kick out the ones who are infringing on their pack territory.
I guess so. Yeah, but
your point,
it's more organic.
Yeah, definitely more organic, probably more just, more fair, and probably a far better system than we have now.
For sure. Speaking of new systems, Scotland's been under the thumb of England for 304 years.
Not for much longer.
Yeah, what do you think about this?
I don't know. I got to give an interview tomorrow on RT at 9 p.m. Eastern time.
So you're going to get up to speed?
Yeah, I'm going to get up to speed on this whole subject, so I sound like I know what I'm talking about. But actually, I've been following it a little bit, and it all boils down to oil. I mean, again, oil. That's what it boils down to. The North Sea is loaded with it. Scotland right now is getting a pittance on the oil that's being pumped from right off their shores. And, the people that are pushing for independence in Scotland are certainly promising everything under the sun in order to achieve it, including free tuition forever for the people of Scotland. So it'll be very interesting. It's also very important.
$1 trillion energy tap, by the way. I mean,
big deal. And I don't know if you saw Max Kaiser's piece on this whole situation, but
no,
he's a little bit of the status quo, independent media, gonna all collapse type of guy. But still, he makes a valid point talking about England's ability to borrow money cheaply because they're pledging the collateral of Scottish oil, and how they're freaking out because Scotland, there's a 50-50 shot that they're going to vote for independence. So very, very interesting. Tomorrow's going to be a very interesting day. I don't know, Doug Owen.
And we'll see all those free market capitalists, and if they want to allow Scotland to nationalize or to deregulate their oil that, of course, Britain has a national interest in. We'll see how they feel about that.
Yeah, and how independent are we talking? I mean, do they divorce themselves from the pound? Do they establish their own currency? Do they suck up to the EU and get involved with the euro? I mean,
Ellen Brown has a state bank option she put forward. I published that that option. I think that you could definitely in the short term you're going to have problems borrowing money from the West, and now people are saying, well, this is going to empower. I've seen so much ridiculous propaganda. I'm not even going to give it this is from the mainstream media, by the way, the government, mouthpieces that this is going to empower Putin. This is going to empower ISIS. It goes on and on and on. It's so ridiculous. But at the end of the day, it comes right down to, I think that they could rehypothecate the debt and recollateralize debts. I don't think that that's the big issue here, but it does. It starts the spiral. It's the the worm.
Can you hear me
turns.
okay, Owen?
Yeah.
Okay, good, because I lost you for a second, then you jump back. No, I agree with you, and I love the Ellen Brown's piece. And will they go that way?
They could still use the euro. I mean, they could still people outside of the European Union use the euro. People outside of the United States, governments around the world use it as a reserve currency. Of course, there's other new avenues. They could print their own money. They could, do what I think Ecuador's doing, and I don't know if I like it, but they could create their own digital currency. They could, or Iceland. Iceland has their own little currency that everybody has a share of, public trust and cryptocurrency. Those kind of things are maybe a way to get over the hump to because at first it's going to be hard to borrow money, but
I don't think so.
But
I don't think so.
I look at Argentina. I mean, how many times have they bankrupted, and they seem to get plenty of plenty of interest? How many times has Japan, turned over their bonds? I don't know, a lot.
Yeah, well, they're buying it up internally. I mean, they're spending their own future to buy up their debt. But I honestly think at the end of the day, we are sending more troops to the Middle East for oil. These troubled regions of the world can be linked to energy resources. At the end of the day, if Scotland decides they're going to be independent and truly independent, from the pound and from the euro, and they're going to go their own currency, they're not going to have any trouble borrowing because they have the true currency, which is energy resources, and they have a lot of it. I mean, so I don't think they would have any problem whatsoever getting investment.
Yeah, Max Kaiser's 4 points here, or 3 rather. The UK can now borrow cheaply using the giant Scottish oil reserves as collateral. If Scotland leaves, the collateral is no longer available, so the cost of borrowing money for Britain skyrockets. Britain could create their own money at the end of the day if they really, really needed to.
They do. The pound.
Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah. So they're in panic mode, and you can tell because they're offering new powers, new privileges to the Scots. David Cameron has come together, and they've made some kind of deal with Nick Clegg, who's a Liberal Democrat. It's going to allow them to figure out how more autonomy over their finances, the national health system, some other things that
public spending, I believe, is one of them. But I don't know, man.
And they would still have to suck up to the IMF. But yeah, I mean, so I think that when you see what this does, okay, if they're coming to the table just with the vote and saying, "Look, don't vote. We need to keep this together. It's for all the better of Europe." And my God, if you do this, everything could unwind. And I think that's what they're really worried about.
Yes,
I mean, at the end of the day, because there's plenty of other countries that have been completely usurped and overtaken by the Troika. They've had their elected representative governments dislodged. Italy and Greece come to mind. They are now taken over by central bankers, technocrats. Yes. And so, the Scottish...
France is rapidly on the way. I agree with you.
I can't see how it could be any worse for the Brits. How could they be any worse off having just a little bit more power over their own parliament and a little bit more power?
For the Brits or for the Scots?
Yeah, well, I mean, and what's interesting about the Scots? No, the Scots, they are. They're not the only ones that get to vote. There's 4.3 million people that are registered Scotland voters, but over 500,000 English, Welsh, and Northern Irish will get to vote as well.
How come?
One of the constituencies that came out of this article from the Scot referendum, let's see, non-Scots make up 14% of the potential referendum electorate. Maybe I
did not read that. That's interesting.
Yeah, let me just open it up here so I can give you the nitty gritty.
Yeah, give me the nitty gritty.
Okay, it came out of Quartz. Nearly 4.3 million people get to vote, the largest electorate ever in the country, with polls showing September 18th's vote tomorrow. Too close to call. One constituency that could prove divisive, given the tight margins, is the non-Scots, some 500,000. I mentioned that already. But since the referendum will follow the same rules as local elections, does it say why? They have a voting union here.
That's a little trouble.
And maybe they're just people that are expats that are outside of the country, or others that are
like a mail-in type thing.
There's Poles that live in Scotland, the biggest foreign group. Let's see, subconscious. I don't know, just some stupid thing over there. They let people that
it's going to be razor thin, and certainly I'm
maybe
sure
rigged.
Absolutely, it's going to be rigged. I mean, there's banking interest involved. There's oil interest involved. I guess this is time for Crow. Ain't no way it's happening, Owen. Ain't no way it's happening.
You don't think so?
Nope.
You're gonna put it down?
Way.
I'll put it down in the book here.
Yeah, put it down in the book, and maybe some Crow next week. But the English.
Oh, sorry, you got Crow today.
You know what? I didn't even lose yet.
That's what it's going to taste like. It's just a little sample.
I didn't like the way it tastes. But I just don't think there's any way, by hook or by crook. I think Max Kaiser's right that the British government needs that resource, and they're not going to let Scotland go on its merry way after 300 plus years.
Well, they're positioning millions of banknotes sent to Scotland in case Yes Vote Sparks runs on ATMs. So they're already looking at it. Britain's banks are moving more cash to have it on hand and I think that's a smart move because you never know if this might freak out people. It might freak out the markets.
It's going to freak out our markets if it happens.
Yeah, well, it'll be okay. We're at all-time highs, Charlie McGrath.
That's right.
We're going nowhere but up. I was listening to the FMOC or the FOMC today, and Janet Yellen is going to keep those inflation numbers low. No inflation. It's going to keep it low, low, low for the next 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, sweet. So, we can all get the 4% mortgages and borrow till our heart's content. We can rack up.
We've never been in more debt than we are right now, and I've never felt richer than I ever have. We've never had the technology that we have, but now a soda water costs you $2 if you're allowed to have it. Maybe.
I don't know what you just said, but I agree.
I know. I was just reading this thing about some of the stupid stuff that was going to inject into the conversation. Vermont has banned brownies. They're turning kids on to kale and gluten-free paleo lemon bars at schools. They have a statewide ban on the brownies. It brings up an interesting, thought or issue, and that is food-based reward systems. And it's something that we grew up under. After the baseball game, if you do good and everybody's sportsmanlike, what do you get?
Pizza.
Yes, exactly. And the coaches get beer.
That's right.
Pictures of it.
And then they drive home on the buses.
Yeah, so that's where, if you're good, you get your treats. Yeah. And so they're saying, well, that might be one of the reasons why people in this culture in the U.S. are so fat. There's a lot of reasons, but it's interesting because you feel like, okay, well, now I've done something good. Now I deserve to eat food. Now I should eat something that's bad. Anyway, they're trying to mind melt the children with this new smart snack program. And I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't think there's anything wrong with eating gluten-free paleo lemon bars, but I could see why there's a lot of people that are like, what? I just want to bring my kid a cupcake. Yeah. And, we live in this world where there's no spanking, no cupcakes, no this, no that. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Personally, I like kale. I don't know what the gluten-free bar is all about.
But can you really reward kids with kale? Okay.
No, you got to give them a cupcake. You got to give them a cupcake or a sweet or whatever. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
It's what we do here. Whenever you have a good show and you have good numbers and we get lots of donations, I give you a cupcake.
Which this week I've got 0 cupcakes.
We get no cupcakes, no gold stars, not even the little red or green ones.
No. I got nothing. Except, hey, thanks for showing up, Chuck.
Hey, you know what? Good chance if you met me, Charlie McGrath, in the flesh, you would like the way I smell.
Really? Tell me all about it. Wait a minute. Are we doing an advertisement for something? Because that's what it sounded like. I'm wearing Aqua Velva.
No, Science Daily says there's this new study that reveals that people find the smell of others with similar political opinions to be attractive, suggesting that one of the reasons why so many spouses share similar political views is because they were initially and subconsciously attracted to each other's body odor.
Wow. I believe that. Listen, here's the story.
You're like,
okay,
are you a Republican? Oh, it smells like
shit.
I
don't know. I think it's a pheromone thing, or maybe an odor thing. Because, look, my girlfriend now, Carla, Doomer Carla, I love her more than any person that I've ever loved, except for my own son, on this planet. Love her to death, right? And, God, how do I say this politically without getting in trouble? I've had girlfriends before that were
stunk like poop. No,
that were model level beautiful. Model level beautiful.
Right.
That I ended up breaking up with because something wasn't there, and I don't know if it was a smell or a pheromone or whatever. It just wasn't there. And when it comes to Carla, who's beautiful, but the clicking thing is I don't know if it's an odor or a pheromone or whatever, but I certainly believe that people are attracted to each other on things that are other than looks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you would hope it's their personality and maybe their hygiene, or who knows. There's a lot of reasons why you might like somebody as opposed to other people. But yeah. I think there is something there that you can find people that have the similar kind of views, or you just meet certain people and you're like, okay, you're like me, and you meet other people that are just those types, like uptight. Right. I could give you an example of maybe the stereotypical person that I would find to smell odd. Somebody that's far left and preachy and defines themselves by their possessions. I'm like, oh. This guy right here stinks like ass.
That freaks me out, to admit, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was kind of maybe stupid or relevant. I don't know. FDA now, because of fat kids. Kids are too fat, right? And it's a national security issue, right? Can't go to war. We need more kids to put into the meat grinder, and they're just too fat to pick up their AR-15 or whatever caliber gun they're giving the kids these days. Maybe a laser rifle very soon.
No doubt.
But there's this new product called Victoza that is a diabetes drug for obese people, and the FDA now has a new injectable for those people that are dangerously overweight, and there's more and more and more and more of them. So it's crazy. I mean, you just see the physical transformation. And I saw it when I went to the doctor's office about a year ago. And I'm sitting in the waiting room, and there's these huge chairs. I don't mean they're huge. They're double the size. And there was this big black guy, and he had to been pushing, 315, 330, 40, 50. I mean, he was barely getting into this chair. But you just didn't see stuff like that. You just didn't have that need. Big and tall. Everything's big and tall. It's hard to find. It's hard to find small size clothes anymore.
Extra large is new large.
Yeah. Do you need a triple X? I guess you might. Yeah. And that's not to disparage anybody. I mean, it can happen to anyone. It's real easy. Because unless you have a lot of money, especially with people that don't have the money to, or enough knowledge about healthy eating habits and I hate to say stupid, but just people that are ignorant about that, Mm-hmm. You meet people that are like, well, I learned on the food pyramid, Well, yeah, you learned crazy stuff that was not even valid at the time, and, you have no idea. Or they think that, eating at McDonald's 2 times a day is healthy because they see commercials telling them, oh, this is a new, healthy meal alternative. Yeah, they're McLovin' it.
They're McLovin' it.
They're Mick blowing up over there. Hey, you know what? I'm going to call you back. I don't know what's up with your bandwidth, but it's in and out a little bit.
Sorry, buddy.
That's all right. No worries.
All right.
I just call Charlie McGrath back. He's going into digital land.
Yeah, I'm having a little bandwidth issues tonight. I keep getting a little notifications from Skype. Is this better, I hope?
Yeah, it'll probably settle out here in a second. No worries.
Yeah.
So,
but, it's interesting because the last hour on my radio program, I had Warren Pollock on there, and we were talking about kind of along this same topic. We were talking about the oligarch structure in like Russia versus the oligarch structure in the United States, where in Russia you have top down, where you have Putin who decides what oligarch is going to maintain their wealth or be rewarded with more wealth if they support the government. And in our country, it's kind of the opposite. We have the oligarchs that are influencing and dominating our political system. But what that ends up with in our country is the evaporation of any kind of wealth through either direct taxation or, red light cams, or your rolling ATM to your local law enforcement, local government, one of which, there's 91,000 across this country. But also the hidden, when you have so few corporations controlling things such as food, where you have people that are becoming ridiculously obese because they're bellying up to McDonald's, it's becoming even more and more difficult for the lowest class, and even the, what once middle class or lower middle class, which is fallen below that, to go and belly up to that bar, like McDonald's. I mean, when's the last time you went there, Owen? I mean, you're dropping, if you're buying food for 2 people, what you're dropping at least $20-25.
Where? McDonald's?
Absolutely.
Then why would you go there?
I don't.
I mean, why would people go there?
I should say
who can afford to go there if it's $25 for two people?
Well, that's what
for $2 more, you're eating steak at Chili's or something. I mean, you can get a 2 for $20 platter going on over there, and I don't know how great that food is, but it's
better than McDonald's.
It's a step up.
So, yeah, absolutely. My point is this: we have a shrinking middle class. We have more and more people that are falling into that poverty line that are not, but I don't know what the alternative is, because what are you going to do? Go to the supermarket and pay $4.50 for a pound of hamburger? I mean, it's becoming more and more difficult. It used to be paycheck to paycheck, now becoming day by day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everything's more expensive because everything costs a little bit more to do it. You got to, energy cost, all of those things get, handed right down to the consumer. At the end of the day, you're not able to,
and fewer and fewer competing interests, right? I mean, you when you have a half a dozen companies that control the food, guess what? They can slowly increase it or rapidly increase it, and there's not a lot you can do about it unless you're growing your own.
Well, the market. I mean, if it gets too expensive, people start looking to alternatives, and then. Great example, beef's going up, right? Well, beef at manufacturing and ranching is going up as well because there's more money to be made. Right. So those things, if you had a truly free market, would go up and go down. The problem is that we've wanted the government to intervene and keep things stable. Exactly. And there's an argument to be made that it's nice to know how much you're going to spend next week for your hamburger helper. It's a nice thing to know. You don't want to go there and say, oh, my God, the ground beef's $35 today. So do you want, let's say that there's, I don't know, an epidemic of mad cow disease. And half of the cattle that are being reared this year in this country or globally, let's say we have a global something, and it could be lack of water, heat, all sorts of things go into, the price of beef. But if you didn't have that, then you would have tons of people that would immediately be unable to buy these products and immediately feel those shocks. And that would have a huge adverse effect that could spike into all sorts of markets, into all sorts of other places. So there's those two mindsets that you do want to have some way to hedge risk, and you do want some way to stabilize these food prices. The problem being is that through those mechanisms, they have been able, cronyism, the oligarchs of the United States have been able to manipulate those systems to only empower and to enrich themselves. So
that's exactly right, and that's that oligarch rule. Rather than the top down, like where you have Russia and Putin, who's going to. I
think at least in our system, you do have at least a market and something that's not totally kleptocratic.
I don't know about that. I mean,
for better or worse, I think that if you look at what happens in Russia, is that you have somebody who's the decider, literally the decider, and the biggest Russian social network was just purchased for $3.5 billion by one of Vladimir Putin's best friends. So. It's a good, for $1.5 billion. So, those kind of things seem, I don't know, like, is that better? Well, you definitely don't want to be posting pictures of Putin, on the social networks because it might not work out good for you. It might be.
That's not flattering. It's okay to post him on a bear.
Yeah. Or flying on an eagle or something that's very masculine.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's debating which is better, a turd or a douchebag.
There you go. That's exactly that. I mean, that was going to be my point. I mean, they're both completely corrupt and, not the people, the average person in Russia is probably faring just as well as the average person in the U.S.
Yeah, I think you have more recourse here. A perfect example, there's a guy that got arrested at one of these UC California, I think it was UC Berkeley, giving out the Constitution. And they arrested him, and we commented on it. Look at this guy; he's giving out the Constitution. He got arrested. Guy got paid $50,000. The court sided with him, forced the police to pay him, and he got tax money and some money from the college and a formal apology. But that kind of stuff I don't think happens very often in Putin's Russia. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not a fan, or really. I just, when it comes to Russian interests, I think that the Russian people have to determine their own destiny. Call me an isolationist, whatever you want, but I don't want to live there. I think that if you look at most people that spend a lot of time in Russia, they don't want to be there either. At least Western American types, the ones that I know. I know some contingent of Russian expats that live here in Central Texas that live here now because of
and they want nothing to do with the current Russian system.
No, not at all. Because the FSB, I mean, it's kind of like it's what you would imagine. I mean, it's a thugocracy. So you get on the wrong side of the local, governor and the local bad guy, the local gangster that's running the police department.
Sure.
You're on the hit list, and that can happen here in the United States too. I mean, we're not exempt from that, but I don't know. It's debatable.
No, you make a valid point. You make a valid point. I mean, during the fall of the alleged fall of the Soviet Union, there was a shakeup, and oligarchs rose to the top, and thugocracy, as you call it, certainly came to bear. In fact, the number one industry there for a while was security, because everybody was afraid of everybody else. I don't disagree
it's
with you.
neo-feudalism, and that's what I think that a lot of anarchists actually would like to see in the United States. You hear about it all the time. Well, we should just privatize all the roads and highways, and we'd have a private police force, private roads, private cities, private citizens with private interest. And
then you have AT&T's security force coming to arrest you because you happen to work for Verizon or something along those. And that sounds ridiculous, but that's exactly the kind of system that was in the Wild East over there for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and cooler heads have prevailed, and they have a system that's somewhat legitimate and actually kind of at least patronizes international law, whether it's...
To an extent.
I think that they're their own problem. They have to deal with their own issues. I think that when we sanction Russia, I mean, the latest, going after Exxon, there's a new round of sanctions on Friday. By doing that, all of the mismanagement, all of the thugocracy can be not addressed, but rather blamed on the U.S. We would be doing great if it wasn't for the U.S. They're evil. They are the epitome. And we become the convenient scapegoat for even the bad Russian policy that's already taking shape. I mean, it's just...
And vice versa. I mean,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Great point. Yeah, I mean, we didn't just have to go after ISIS. We could actually, $22 trillion is what we spent on the war on poverty. Right at $8 trillion is what we've spent on the war on terror. So you could only imagine what the war on Russia, the war for Syria, the war in Ukraine is ultimately going to cost. One of the things I think is really interesting is that we are debating troops on the ground in Iraq, and we all know that that's just a proxy or a way to get into Syria, bombing campaigns in Syria. But they're actually sending 3,000 military troops to Africa to battle Ebola.
I saw that. I'm not. I mean, what is that about, Owen? I mean, what are these troops going to do? Cordon off and quarantine and provide security for? I mean, what? What are they going to do? I mean, it's not 3,000
if you hear the big problems, the problems are that the people are fleeing, that they can't get workers.
So they're going to shoot them?
Well, I don't know. What do you use troops to do?
Shoot people.
If you have if all you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail, right?
I like it. Yeah. I mean, so the slow invasion of Africa with the Ebola scare, which I don't know. I've read a lot on it, and they're talking this geometric growth that hundreds of thousands, millions, spread worldwide. What do you think? I mean, is it hype for something? Is it hype for resources?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think that, the humanitarian mission, I just don't buy it. IMF is now going to be giving out bailouts to everyone, millions of dollars. Let's see. Never let a great crisis go to waste.
Heard that before.
Yeah, that's from Zero Hedge here. Keynesian stimulus. Oh, from the Wall Street Journal. I'm sorry, I was reading something else. The International Monetary Fund on Thursday warned the West African Ebola epidemic requires large-scale global intervention to control a crisis that's ravaging economies. So, this is a little economic hitman. They're going to give money to Sierra Leone, Guinea, Liberia. I think they're going to put these countries further into debt, and they'll be able to pay off this bio pandemic with lots and lots of extractables and other contracts, lucrative contracts for those oil companies and other energy oligarchs. I mean, look at Afghanistan, case in point.
Yeah.
We talked about the treasure trove of resources. Just last week, they found like another $1 trillion worth of rare minerals under Afghanistan. You wonder why we're so interested in these places.
No, it's just spread freedom and democracy, right?
Well, there's that. And, you want to stop Ebola because it's going to kill millions and millions of people if we just market trip everybody and, put them in quarantines.
Let the IMF sink their teeth in and then...
Of course, they have the first thing you need to do is buy lots of weapons, lots of riot gear. I mean, that's what you buy first before you worry about, vaccines, cures.
Well, we'll just send the troops over so we can provide the security.
I should mention this. This is something that's getting no attention in the media at all, but something to think about.
Tell me.
Kids are dying left and right after these botched or bad MMR, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine in Syria that the UN...
I've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And you tell people there's a risk. There's always a big, big risk, and you should really look at something that can debilitate you in just a matter of moments. And the only reason I even think that they're having to face the fire on this issue is because minutes after taking these vaccines, kids just start falling over dead. So, not sure exactly what happened with the vaccines, how they were tainted. And that's one of the big points I try to make to people. It's not really... We can debate the science and how much of that's been manipulated or, the kind of genetic engineering and live viruses and stuff that could be in those and probably are in the RNA and DNA in some of these vaccines. But just the manufacturing risks or the storage risks or the products that could, malign you and screw you up.
Right.
Because...
where are you on that? I mean, you have a new boy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're stepping away? You're not doing any vaccinations?
No, especially, it's something that's become a kind of an issue. My mom really wants us to. His grandmother wants us to vaccinate him, but, he's been just absolutely healthy, haven't had any problems as of yet. And if you look at most of the recent CDC whistleblower, looking at African American children having more cases of autism. Most of these are when children are very, very small, in the first few years. So I think that if we want to revisit it and look at the science again, and what I've seen is just horrendous, and the risk is not worth the possible reward. But waiting till they enter school at 6, 7 years old or whatnot, I think is probably the best thing for any parent, unless you're taking your kids on international flights or flying them to places where they, might be exposed to Ebola. But what are you going to do anyway if they are, I mean, they don't have an Ebola virus. But, the problems with the MMR, in which that's the most popular vaccine, are numerous. And they haven't updated it since the 70s. So they're saying that different variations of polio that we're now seeing in the U.S., that it's supposed to, protect you against, same thing with rubella, measles, are outdated. They're just not effective any longer. You have mutations. So even if you get the vaccines, the chances that it's going to prevent you from contracting measles, pretty minimal. I mean, we saw it with and I hate to even call it an outbreak, but there was a few hundred kids in New York recently that got measles, and almost half of them, and the one that initiated the outbreak, all had their vaccines. So what happened there? Why are these vaccinated kids getting measles? And that's one of the, I hate this debate, but it has to be made, because this is what you're going to hear. Well, if everybody had vaccines, then the chances would be less. And so I always make the argument, well, if your kid has a vaccine and it's effective and you believe it's effective, then why are you worried about my child not having a vaccine?
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you scared? Okay, if you feel so secure about it, would you tell your child not to go to another country, or would you allow them to go to another country even with recommended vaccines? Even then, the chances of you catching or contracting, rather, I guess would be the proper term, polio or something else if you went to South America, it's probably no more, no less. Most of it's good hygiene, and there's so many caveats to it, but ultimately I just don't buy into them, and I think that they're very, very risky. The ones that I have taken, well, I can't say that I it's prevented polio, but I don't know anybody that has polio, and they always say that you have to have boosters, right? Well, if you haven't had a booster in 5 years, then you're probably susceptible. So that means that 90% of the adult population is unvaccinated against polio.
That's right. Yeah.
When was the last time you took a polio vaccine? When you were 7?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I kind of got into this after my kid was past the age of vaccine, so he's had them, and there's a lot I learned after the fact that made me nervous about him, but you're going to face it. I mean, you're going to face it when your boy is school age, and I don't know. As far as my knowledge is the depth of the knowledge on vaccines is the school districts cannot make you.
No, but they'll make you feel bad about it. That's what they do.
Exactly.
They won't offer it to you, and they'll tell you, oh, well, make you feel like you're a horrible person, and then they might even call CPS. You might even have to have a talk to a CPS officer or something that if you tell them you have a religious problem, that you want a religious waiver, usually that makes it a case closed situation. Because the person in the office and even the nurses probably don't want to get into some kind of big debate over it. Especially over religion. So that, we still have the religious exemption. They're trying to go after that in a lot of states. California, not that it got a lot of support, but one of their Congress critters put forward a bill to make it mandatory to vaccinate your children upon entering public education. Then you have the other option of just homeschooling your child if you have the money, if you're able, if you have the time. Those kind of things are hard for people, but they're trying to eliminate your ability to opt out of it. But where we actually went to a birthing center, and we didn't even have to do the Social Security number. But the girl told me, the midwife said, look, you don't have to have a Social Security number, but I would recommend that if you plan on staying in the United States, you get one. Because if you don't have one, oh, man. She's like, one of our parents was like, I'm not putting my kid into the system. And it was a nightmare, a legal nightmare to get a Social Security number for her child after the fact. So things you got to think about.
Why would they need it? Why, I mean, for what reason?
Because you're in debt. Your kid owes what, $70,000, $46,000. I mean,
But I mean, how would they find out about it? I mean,
at some point, you're going to want to put your kid in school or take them on a flight or get an ID.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They need a Social Security number that's your mark of the beast in this country. You have to have it. If you don't have it, then you're not a human. You just don't exist.
That is your mark. That is your I mean, what don't you fill out? That's the first. Somebody has your Social Security number. They know everything that there is to know about you through your banking, through your preferences on you name it. I agree with you. It is the mark of the beast. What else you got, Owen? Are we coming up on an hour?
We are coming up on an hour. Usually this is where we talk about donations. We didn't
let's
receive
do
any.
that then. Let's
we
do
didn't
that then.
receive any. And
this week was slow. It was slow on donations, no doubt about it. I mean, zero. That's as slow
Doomers
as it
do
gets.
not get brownies this week. But we want to thank all the people for the support in the past, and just a rally cry for you to invest once again in this show is it's always appreciated, and we do this without corporate influence. One of the things I will just say this about the NFL, I don't want to talk about all the horrible drama that's happening there,
brother,
because it's each of these cases that have been brought to the public eye, they all have to stand on their own, and I don't want to paint things with broad brushes, but I will say that the change that is happening in the calls for a reformation of the National Football League, which is a huge 501c3 tax-exempt organization. Okay, that's scandalous, number one. But the whole league and everything that has been part of it has been scandalous.
Wait a minute, Owen. How is that possible? They make billion. I mean, what is Goodell made since 144 million since 2008?
He makes $40 million a year.
Yeah. How is that a 501c3?
Well, most 501c3s have employees that they pay.
Good God!
You didn't know that? What you thought?
Yeah, no, I knew that. I didn't realize that the NFL didn't pay taxes.
Yeah, look it up. And they got a lot of money from the bailout, from Troubled Asset Relief Protection Program. But nonetheless, the thing that is happening now is that the sponsors, Nike, Campbell's, all of these companies that are spending millions, if not in the aggregate annually over $1 billion with the NFL, are starting to say, hey, we're going to pull out of this. And so that is actually dictating what the NFL does, and they have to now create new policies, new rules, new regulations over all of their personnel and people that are supposed to be role models for the kids out there. We're seeing, obviously, they should not be, and there's plenty of other examples of horrendous things all the way back to Michael Vick and his organized crime syndicate, even the Cleveland Brown owners and his big scam with Flying J. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But the one thing that makes this show different is that we don't have corporate sponsors. We don't have to bow to them. People can't take a clip of something I say out of context, or even in context, that's rude, that is unbrand or product friendly, and
usually
put pressure.
About the Jews.
Yeah, or them.
Or them.
They own everything, but the fact is that we don't have to bow to that corporate pressure. But the sad reality is that if you don't have a corporate structure, you get no money. You do things for free. So with that, I want to encourage you guys to help us out and support the show with a small financial donation. Recurring donations are really easy to do with WePay, PayPal, or even through Bitcoin. We take Bitcoin, we accept that, just like the Californian government. So pony up, people. I don't know what else to say. Please do.
It was a good tirade, and way to tie it into the disgustingly corrupt or the disgustingly portrayed this week anyway NFL, which I mean, watching this freak show and unfold before our eyes is pretty incrable.
It's so it almost has nothing to do with football anymore.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It's social engineering, and it's it's these gladiator games that have become just so dominant in our social fabric that it makes me proud to say that I'm friends with Doug Owen, who could give a crap about the NFL and still just looks at the college football as his main entertainment source when it comes to that sport.
Well, I don't think it's any more altruistic or better than it's probably just as corrupt, if not more corrupt, than the NFL. I have a team that I watch, and so it gives me the opportunity to be critical and to follow some of the meta politics that have been attached to the NFL. And they're actually using it to push Obamacare. Some of these companies or private corporations that, because it's interesting, because each one of these little entities, like the Green Bay Packers, publicly traded. You can't buy stock, but if they need money, they will. They have stockholders. But, the Vikings, they would not endorse Obamacare. Other franchises did. And, so I think that there is some targeting. There is definitely not just with the head to the face there targeting, but real political targeting of some of these, off
fall in line.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a little of that happening. And, the NFL has been pressured for a long time to be this pusher of agendas, whether it's the war agenda. I mean, that's the number one thing that you get when you watch any of these gladiator sports is this
doubt about it,
pro-war, pro-U.S. Agenda. That is
pro-military, yeah, absolutely.
Right. And it's so, because it gets people because they're hyped up and they're behind their team. It makes it real easy to inject other ideas and other belief systems on top of it. You're all for your team. We're all for America. And America needs to kick ass to get oil in Iraq and in Ukraine and in ISIS. We're going to kick their ass too, just like we're going to kick the Cleveland Browns ass right now. And here's the Star-Spangled Banner, you sheeple.
My name is Charlie McGrath. My website's wideawakenews.com. And my co-founder, my co-host is Doug Owen. His website is blacklistednews.com. If you want to contact Doug, please do so at doug@blacklistednews.com. If you want to contact me at info@wideawakenews.com. We will see you next week with Doomcast number 59. Doug, what else should they check out?
You shouldn't listen to the show because you're not donating, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Find something else to do with your time, kids.
What about Twitter? What about Doomcast.com?
Doomcast shows our handle. Doomcast.com is the source, the portal. Check us out there, and we'll be there online in the meantime. Till next week.
Peace out, y'all.